can get very frustrating if you don't know how those work, to sit there and go, it says to do this, it's exactly what I said, and it's still not working. And then people start freaking out when all they had to do is walk away for 30 minutes and come back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing incredible marketing. Today, I'm joined by Robert Adler, who's the founder of Sarge Digital. They specialize in email marketing, SEO, affiliate marketing, but also email deliverability, which I think is a fantastic topic. Rob, thanks for jumping on today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So email deliverability is obviously a core concern for high-level users. We want to make sure that our customers' emails are hitting the inbox, right?
Yep.
And so I think this is a really technical topic. I mean, we're going to assume that we all understand the general best practices, right? Don't send spammy crap out there, all that. But let's talk about the technical stuff that we can control. And I don't even really know where to start, other than when I set up a Mailgun, it tells me to make 5 DNS records. It doesn't get into DKIM or SPF.
Yeah. So let me run you through some of the basics.
Perfect.
So with a lot of the email setup, like Mailgun, any of the other relays, ESPs, whatever it is, obviously they have their environment, their servers, their platform, everything there. Between that environment and your user is what you insert in. So your domain, where you put your emails, your subject line, your creative, your from, all that. But how do the services actually know that you are who you say you are? That's what SPF, DKIM, DMARC, all of those are for. So SPF is basically a way of telling the world, hey, I represent ABC.com. ABC.com's SPF record says that these IPs are legitimate. So when you send, they say, oh, that IP, let's check if that's legit. It checks the SPF record. It goes, cool, it's legitimate. And if you don't have that, that's why you start to see messages in like Gmail that says, we can't authenticate this sender. We're not sure if this is the person they say they are, stuff along those lines, which if anyone remembers 10 years ago, that's a great flag if they think you're phishing when you're actually trying to send consumer email. Right. And of course, by great flag, I mean horrible. And then you also have DMARC, and DMARC is basically SPF on a different level. Instead of authenticating on just the domain, it authenticates the sender, the actual email itself, against where it's going. So they basically say, we're going to take these fields, like the from, the to, all those, and we're going to hash those together. It's not really hashing, but they're going to put them together in a format where when you have the right key that is verified by the domain DNS records, they end up being verified as legitimate. So between those two, you can say the domain is from the right person, they're sending with consent and authorization of the person, and the email itself is verified as also being the correct source for this. So if someone takes over your IP or something that changes on that side, the DMARC would actually end up getting affected by DKIM, and the DKIM would be affected by that because it might not have the same tokens in it. So by using those, and I'm going very high level, I'll go English next. But basically it's just those DNS records tell people where to look, and it tells them what to look for. And then they use the tech there to figure it out. It's the exact same thing as having a mailbox outside. When you have a mailbox, how does the mailman know it's yours besides it being in front of you? Normally there's numbers on it or there's some kind of information. Some people put their full address now. That's the same thing as kind of saying SPF, right? But let's assume it's a PO box now. The only reason that you would know the owner is you have the key. Your key is DKIM. So by saying I have the key, you can walk in and go, this is mine, and then open it. It's the same exact thing, just from the other perspective. How do I know it's you? Oh, you have the key? Cool. I can verify that it's actually you. So a lot of people go in and they set up Mailgun and all these other places, and they don't set up SPF, they don't set up DKIM, they don't set up anything else. And then when they start sending, you have places like Gmail that'll be like, well, they're not exactly spam, but we can't verify who they are. So let's be a little cautious, but we'll still deliver their stuff to a point. Some places won't deliver it at all. Other places will auto spam box you. Other places will actually do what's called black holing, which is they tell you that it went through, but then they just take it and go, nah, and then just throw it into the trash can. So you don't even know, but you don't even know it didn't get there. So you're sitting here, someone going, I never got your email. You're sitting here going, it says right here it was delivered, and they're like, never got it. That's part of the reason. And people don't even know that ISPs like, Gmail, Hotmail, all the big boys like that, to a certain extent, do that or they don't, but they never admit either way. So Hotmail's a really big one for black holing. So in English, the easiest way of that is each one has their own access list. They know your IP reputation. They'll say these are clean, these are not clean, these perform well, these don't perform well. The thing that people forget is that everyone wonders why an ESP turns them off, right? Oh, well, they kicked me off for low performance. Why does low performance matter? These are all consensual people. These are all people that are on my list. They opted in. Because the less performance they see, the less email they can send per hour, per day, and that affects their other clients as well as you. So that's why having a high open rate is important, having a low complaint rate is important, having basic standard metrics that show that people are getting what they want to get. And that's why I always say it's like you can sit here and try to game the system all you want, but at the end of the day, if you're sending stuff that people don't want, it's eventually going to end up coming back. And you know, people just don't put that together because most people are too low volume to actually see that impact.
So let me start asking you some questions as the voice of an average high leveler.
Yep, hit me.
I think, myself included, when I'm approaching SMTP, I'm like, you know what? I'm going with Mailgun. I'm creating one subdomain, and then boom, in high level, like magic, every time I add a sub account, it uses my same subdomain. I don't have to think about it again, and all my clients' email is working.
Yep.
Now, I just logged into an account that I have, and I'm looking at the deliverability, and it's 80%. Okay. Now, I think the last time I looked at this, it was in the 90s, and I thought, cool, 90 is pretty good, and for the lack of work I have to do to make this work, that sounds like a great trade-off. Now, I see 80%, and I'm thinking, that's probably should be better than that, right? In your mind, what does 80% tell you?
80%.
Red flag, yellow flag?
Probably a yellow.
Okay.
So I would probably say that as a yellow, because here's the thing. It could be, and now granted, I'm not saying Mailgun, but there are a lot of relays where it could just be a problem on their end, and their MTA, their mail system is actually retrying, and that'll go up over time. Or, coming from a marketing perspective, maybe you burned your domain, and you're actually getting throttled by like Yahoo and Gmail and all of those, where they're saying, look, this message seems too much like spam. We really don't want to take it. Or they say like this domain does not have a good reputation right now. So there are ways where they can kind of throttle this back. The problem that I see a lot with relays is they don't tell you what those codes are. They just say, oh, we couldn't do it. But that's where third-party tools come in. So one of the tools, if it's okay, I'll share one of the ones I use.
Yeah, let me ask you a question before we get into that.
Yeah, of course.
So in your mind, 80% would be kind of alarming. It'd be time to dig in and figure out what's going on here. Okay.
80% not knowing where the drop is very alarming. If I knew where it was, it might be considered normal on certain domains, but also remember your list composition is the big part. If you're 90% Yahoo, that's a whole different thing at 80% versus 90% Gmail, because they can be drastically different based on filters, the type of people there are.
Destinations of where these are going. Okay. Now, you talked about DMARC and
DKIM
and SPF, right?
Correct.
Can I no longer, if I want to set those things up,
yes,
I can then no longer be the lazy marketer anymore, right? I need to create a subdomain for every client in my Mailgun account and tie that to their sub account in high level. Is that correct?
If you wanted to segment properly, yes. That would also help you with risk. That would also help you with if one subdomain gets burned for one client because they put, bad data in, it might not nuke the other one. So it's more along the line of contingencies and making sure that everything is as it should be, which is source A is for target A, source B is for target B. But yeah, you want to segment as much as logically possible.
Right. So I think, and again, this is advice that I try to give, and I'm like, if you're not a technical person, you can just use one subdomain. It's really easy to set it up and get it going, but you can't really take it all the way.
Right.
And now you've confirmed that, right? You can't do those three things for each client if you're not using a separate subdomain for each one.
Yes. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You can put them under one. I just don't advise it. Because at that point, because here's a realistic scenario I deal with almost every week. Our mail is down and we don't know why. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. What sending domains do you have? What IPs do you have? And where are they throttled? You're using Mailgun, right? So you don't need to care about your IPs, but you do need to care about your domains. So when you have the domains and you go in and they go, well, we have 14 different sources going on this one domain, this one IP, and it starts sending out. If that gets nuked, which one of the 14 caused it? Or was it all of them? Was it only one? Was it a combination? You have no way to tell without direct reports, which traps won't give you, blacklists won't give you, and throttles won't really tell you. So at that point, you have to rely on your own segmentation. And that can't really happen if you're consolidating into one source.
That makes total sense. And now let me ask you a question that comes up all the time that I never knew the answer to.
Hmm?
When we're talking about credibility, right? And we're saying, IP address and domain.
Hmm?
So let's say my domain is myagency.com.
Okay.
And the sub account I'm using to send for all my clients is mg.myagency.com.
Right.
Is the domain's authority based on mg, the whole subdomain, or the root domain?
So the funny part of that answer is it depends on where you're sending. So in the majority, it will count the sub as a domain, as a fully qualified domain name, right? So like mg dot will count as mg dot, and that's it. But if you go the other way and you actually do have your raw link, like your regular, domain.com, that can negatively impact mg dot. But it depends on which level. So I'm not talking about like sending or throttles. Now I'm talking about contextual filters. So like when do you know how contextual filters work? Because
I don't know.
Okay, so check this out. So basically, it's called a Bayes filter, a Bayesian filter. It's one of the more simplistic things you learn in machine learning when you're learning machine learning and programming for machine learning. But the whole concept is basically in English, it's called a bag of words filter. So you have two bags. You have bag A, bag B. Bag A is all your good emails, the ones you want in your inbox, the ones you want to see, like your credit card bill. Well, you don't want to see that, but your credit card bill, your email from your mom, your recipes, like stuff like that. Then you have bag B. Bag B is all the way through the dirty like pharma spam, all the way up through like this guy's just spamming. I don't want him. That's where a lot of email outreach ends up. So what happens is the system breaks down those words and phrases and says, here's the email coming in. Is it more like the legitimate side or is it more like the not legitimate side? Here's the problem. It's just based on words. So if you could be a completely legitimate sender, like Bill Gates himself could send me an email and it still might end up in spam if he uses the wrong words. But that's why everyone always does their first email with, please add us to your address book. Please whitelist our email address. Please do this. Please give this to your sysadmin. Because at the end of the day, that one filter can be swayed. Because think about it. If you have 5 emails a day and you say all spam, there's nothing to compare to. Now, all of a sudden, everything's spam. So what a lot of them do is, like Gmail, every time you hit that spam button, adds it to the spam bag B for all of Gmail. And then across all the different users they have, they just sit there and put them all together and go, here's all the ones that our huge army of humans have told us is stuff they don't want to see. And then here's all the stuff that they left in their inbox that they actually opened, that they might have clicked on, that they might have, actually performed with. And then it goes, you're more like this, you're more like that. So it seems easy to influence, but it proves it's a moving target every millisecond.
This is where some of those tools can really help. They can check the content of your email and say, hey, this is a bad idea. But before we go there, I want to finish the thought. So when I set up a mg dot whatever subdomain, that's basically fresh. It has no authority coming that way. But going the other way, myagency.com, if I've been a terrible marketer, could influence the subdomain on the content filter level.
Yep. And here I'll give you one big example that I guarantee you've at least seen or not recognized you've seen. Think about the people that use mg dot and they send that out for their clients while they're doing outreach on their main domain for their actual business. And then they end up getting 5 booked calls. They sell 4 of them. They go to send the invoice. Their invoice is spam box because one of their outreach emails got their domain flagged and then by proximity took out a lot of their other clients too. So it's one of those things where it doesn't happen every time, but isn't one time more than enough? Just take the extra 5 minutes and segment out.
Yeah, and would you also advise, if you are going to do cold outreach, especially if you're new to it, having a separate domain that you do it from?
Oh, yeah. I never allow my clients to do it from their main domain because I literally had a client, for example, that sent out a bunch of outreach, had like 100 replies, booked like 40 calls, got like 20 clients, sent out their contracts. Not one got signed because they all hit the spam box. So it's like, and then of course they went back and called, but like that's a good example of an unintended circumstance and a result that you didn't even see coming because you burned the one filter no one talks about, the contextual one, not just IP rep, not just domain rep, the actual content of the email, which now their actual business name was going to the spam box. If I emailed my friend and put their business name in, spam box. So it's like, it's one of those things where you have to look at everything because it really does get taken into account.
Gotcha. So All right, so now let's talk about tools that can help.
Sure. So one of the main tools that I use is called, and don't let the name fool you, email on acid. So it's,
Nice.
I'm not even joking.
I like this. I like this approach. Let's spice
so
up a traditionally boring topic.
so here, if it's okay, you want me to share my screen? I can show you.
Yeah, of course.
So basically, I'm going to go back to the homepage and just show you this. So nice, corporate looking site, all that good stuff. I'm sure people have probably heard of the corporate version, not the same company, but does a lot of the same things called Litmus. And Litmus is used very big on like Aweber and stuff like that, like the big corporations. Email on Acid I just like because the pricing is a little bit more logical. It's a little bit more raw, but the information is not as interpreted. So you can basically take their advice and go off of their expertise, or you can come up with your own. So me as a consultant, I just want to see raw data. I don't need them to interpret it. I don't need them to do, whatever they think it is. But when you look at this, they have something called, and I'll show you right here, they have B2B spam testing and B2C spam testing.
Nice.
On the premium account. So literally $132 per month, billed monthly, it's 1 month. What they do is you sign up, you go into the spam tool, they give you about 20 email addresses. There'll be like 2 AOLs, 2 Yahoos, 2 Hotmails, all the way across all the major systems, right? So big four, then you have the cables. So cables are like cable companies like, Cox, Comcast, all of those. Big four, Yahoo, Hotmail, AOL, Gmail. And then you have everything else, which is basically usually referred to as GI, which is general internet, which is just anything at their domain. These will test all of those, including the multiple Outlook versions. So this will tell you, for example, this email inboxed on Outlook.com, but then spam boxed on Outlook 2007. And then it'll literally say that. So in one screen, it'll show you Gmail inboxed, Hotmail inboxed, Yahoo did not. Outlook 2007 did, Outlook 2012 did not. And then usually it'll drill down and show you more info like, did you know XYZ that this version of Outlook doesn't work with this level of like CSS? Like this CSS command doesn't work in that version of Outlook. No one would have any idea that that is actually a restriction.
Wait a minute. Because how can this tool even see all that? Are you using this as your SMTP provider now?
Just the targets. So you load in their emails as your list and then send your normal send to them. And then they tell you if you're inboxing on each service individually. So they have a program that sits on the back end of their AOL account that goes, oh, it hit the junk box, tell them it hit the junk box. Oh, it hit the inbox, tell them it hit the inbox. And then all that wraps up into one big report, right?
They give you a CSV and they say, upload this and put it into the campaign you're planning on sending.
Exactly. It's literally just a block of like 20 emails separated by commas. You could even put it in your Gmail and just literally just put it in your 2-line and then send it. And then they have other tools too, like the CSS style. They'll say like, this doesn't work in Outlook, this doesn't render correct in Hotmail, this does that. But the information doesn't require a programmer to fix it. You just need a layman that understands basic tech. Like this says this, can you do that? And then next thing you know, you're on Fiverr for $5 getting your entire template fixed. So it's like there's a lot of stuff, but it's very actionable information and very cheap to get it. You don't have to pay a consultant $500 to sit there and manually look through it. It's programmatic. You have your answers in 10 minutes. Nice and easy.
So $132, how many of those do they let you run a month?
That's the best part. I still haven't seen the limit.
Really?
Yeah. Because the emails they give you are dedicated to you, not the campaign. So when a new subject line comes in, it groups it under that subject line. So what I've done is they actually have a secondary version where they give you recurring, and I just put that into my regular list. And it just goes, oh, this send didn't work on Yahoo as well as we thought. This one didn't inbox on Gmail, so on and so on and so on. So it actually
keep those dummy contacts as part of your base that you send to. That's awesome.
And then you start to see correlations. And you'll start to see correlations where someone will say, oh, my open rate dropped 7%. And then they go in and they go, you're good, man, except Yahoo. And then you go back and you go, holy crap, all of my losses in my open rate were only Yahoo. So it kind of helps you focus where you're looking for answers.
Back to your original point of not being able to tell, when I look at my Mailgun report, I have no clue what's really comprising that number.
Yep. And with places like that, sometimes you have to go reverse. So you have to actually look at the domains you've sent to and then compare them to the opens you've had and then look at the domains between the two. So it's a little bit more, there are ways of finding the data. It's just, relays aren't really in business to give you that data. They're in business to send your mail. So they just do what they need to. ESPs will give you some of that data, but still not to the level you're looking for. But that's because, let's be honest, most people start it up, press send, and call it a day. And that's what most people think mailing is.
So this is fantastic, I think, for the contextual filters. What about the technical stuff? Are there tools that can help people figure out DKIM and DMARC and that kind of stuff? Because I feel like I've talked about this more than most people, and I still don't know how to build those things and feel confident that I'm setting them up correctly.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. So DKIM and SPF are actually a lot easier than you think. So SPF is literally one line. And places and like third-party tools and stuff that use sending and everything like that, they actually will end up being they'll end up giving you the line usually when they actually know what your IPs are. They'll just be like, oh, by the way, just copy this in there and you're good. Then there will be other ones that will actually run based on like DKIM, for example, that requires a little bit more. So you have to set up a DNS record. You need to choose what's called a selector, which is basically just the prepended subdomain on another subdomain. So it's like blank dot underscore domain key dot domain.com. And then you can put whatever you want in there. So if you have 5 people, you can have 5 different DKIMs. So there's ways of kind of clarifying that and cleaning that up. Like Mailgun, the relays, they have their defaults in there. And that's how they do a lot of that clean mailing, is that they just have like these 25 accounts might be on our default here. And if that has a problem, then we know it's at least somewhat isolated. And that's why you'll see a lot of emails that are just like S number dot something dot mailgun.com. So there's a lot of those, but DKIM is not that hard to set up if you have a tech or anyone that knows DNS. So basically anyone that can do DNS for you, if you have GoDaddy with their DNS editor and you have basic tech skills, you can really figure it out as long as your platform gives you what you need. That's the biggest thing. So the platform needs to give you what you need to set.
So I would need to go into Mailgun and figure out where the DKIM or DMARC is that they would give me.
So you would don't worry about DMARC. Worry about DKIM and SPF. Those are the 2 big ones.
DKIM and SPF.
Right. So literally SPF is this easy. They give you it's like 5 words usually. It's like IPv4 colon and then an IP, and then it's like A, and then it's like tilde all or something along those lines, depending on how strict they want to get. You take that, you put it in your DNS, you press save, you're done with SPF. There's nothing client side, there's nothing mail server side that you need to modify, nothing.
Okay.
DKIM, on the other hand, does require a little bit of pre-processing. So DKIM is the harder one, where you're going to end up needing to look at what it's called an injector, but basically what your system that sends the mail wants to say it represents. And then you take those tokens and put them in place. It's a big block of text, to the point where most people paste it to me and they forget about 40 characters and think it's the whole thing. So always check with those, but usually they'll give you all of that. What normally matters about this is this. SPF is all based on your IP address, which is controlled by Mailgun or your relay there. DKIM is controlled by whoever is sending the mail. So it can come from numerous places as long as the code is set up the right way to get that computed into a single hash or a single solution by saying, this is part A, this is part B. With this email, this is the result you should get. The same way kind of passwords are made. And then as soon as you see that, it goes, oh, it's authentic, and then you're good. So the 2 biggest ones literally are DKIM and SPF, other than like blacklist checking and all of that, but that's a whole other conversation.
So I'm looking at a Mailgun setup right now, and it looks like the first 2 records it gives you are the SPF and DKIM. They're both TXT records. Right. And the one has that huge block, like you said, and the other one's really simple.
Yep.
So, okay. So basically, when we teach people to do this, we are teaching that part, but again, if you're not doing it client by client, you're not really helping yourself out.
And the other thing, too, that a lot of people forget is, and in the grand scheme of things, this is very minuscule, but it still is for people that are going quick and trying to get stuff done. Resolving stuff with DNS sometimes takes time. Just because you've said it doesn't mean everyone knows about it. So one of the best examples is, and this has kind of been one of my tricks. Here, I'm going to share my screen one more time real quick. One of my best tricks is this. So if you put in Sarge Digital, for example, and I put let's call it a TXT record. Notice that my Google site verification is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's broken down by countries. So this shows you, for example, this is what a server in Beijing thinks your TXT record is for your site. This is what one in Germany thinks. This is what one in Paris thinks, London, Brazil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because just because it's set doesn't mean it's set everywhere. And people will go and set it and then send an email. It'll fail and they'll be like, I don't understand. I already just set it. So most DNS has something called a TTL, a time to live, and most of them are set to about 30 minutes. So just because it doesn't work doesn't mean it's not set right. Just wait 30 minutes and try it again.
Gotcha.
So there's small tricks like that, but it can get very frustrating if you don't know how those work to sit there and go, it says to do this, it's exactly what I said, and it's still not working. And then people start freaking out when all they had to do is walk away for 30 minutes and come back.
Nice. So what about, you showed us email and ACID. Do you have any other tools on the contextual side? Like I know I've seen some, I don't know the names off the top of my head, but that will just like you could paste in the body of your email, or it gives you an email address and you send it to them and it says, hey, get these words out of here, change your subject.
Yep. So the biggest one that I've seen go around the space in general is Mail Tester. So that's mail-tester.com. It looks like this. And basically they give you this random email address to send. So literally you just send an email to that email and then you say, check your score, it comes in. And what this is really based on is it is based on a technology called SpamAssassin. At least that's what it looks like to me every time I've ever seen it.
That's a sweet name. The
yeah, right?
Industry was so cool.
So little known fact, SpamAssassin is on the majority of web servers on the internet, pretty much. Like if you ever heard of cPanel, for example, cPanel is one of the biggest web host management systems. Yep. Also, ironically, Web Host Manager is cPanel. All of those by default install SpamAssassin. That is your anti-spam. So SpamAssassin runs the same thing we talked about earlier, Bayes filters, Bayesian filters, contextual filters, but it also has something in there called Razor. And Razor is also one of the systems where a lot of the cable companies use it, where it's purely contextual. It looks at the words and words that shouldn't be there, but then it queries a server and goes, hey, guys, how many times have you seen this email come in? Does it look spammy to you? Are your people deleting it? Does it look like this? Da-da-da-da-da. And then it phones back. So it's this big network of servers all sharing information, right? So when they say, for example, def.com, and they go, never seen that before, and then 5,800 mail servers in 7 minutes say that def.com is sending them an email, they're going to be like, no, we need to have this back off. Like, this is a little strong. But it won't do it unless there's a spam indicator. So velocity itself for GI isn't that big of a deal. What it is a big deal for? Everyone else. You can't just go to Gmail and send 50,000 on a fresh IP and call it a day. Yeah. So that's where backoffs come in and throttles come in. But the bottom line about SpamAssassin is that SpamAssassin's Razor 2 filter is actually commercialized too. It's running on the back end of the cable companies. So a lot of them use CloudMark. CloudMark is this huge contextual filter that does very well, but it's based on the information it's provided, right? So it's all a Bayes filter, but this one is an interconnected, evolving Bayes filter based on tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of sources, all trying to share information unknowingly, because no one actually knows that it's doing that. And then they're on the back end just going, okay, we've seen this a lot. Maybe we should look into this. Maybe this will happen. I'm acting like people are looking at it. It's all programmatic. Right. But yeah, so they share a lot more info. And that's why people are just like, oh yeah, we're going to send all this as fast as possible. That's great, but you'll never send on that IP again for like a month. So it's like, it'll get past it, but then you're flagged and you have to wait for it to drop off.
Yeah. So Rob, this has been absolutely fantastic, but I think it's still going to go over a lot of people's heads. And a lot of people are thinking, Rob, can I just call you? Is this something that you do as a service for other agencies?
Of course, yeah. And what I normally do is if you're going to ask me basic questions, I'm not charging you for it. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm here to help people. I'm not, and I know it's a salesy line, but I truly am actually here to help people. But yeah, we do have a small package that we put together where we do basically this. We basically will like set up your SPF, we'll set up your DKIM, we'll verify it. We'll even show you how to verify it independently so you can see that we're not BSing you about it. And then we usually throw in an hour of consulting as well. So we'll actually go over it and say, Okay, show us your drops. Show us your campaigns. Okay, here's a campaign. Your open rate's 8%. Let's try changing this subject line to this and then put this and change this. And with your DMARC, your SPF, your DKIM, everything else in place, this is here, this is here. Like we do a go flight list. So it's basically a go live list. So we normally do those. And honestly, I mean, we only charge 1,000. And that's basically everything you need to be able to get everything solved. And then we also stand behind it. So if you have a problem with authentication, if you have a problem with problems with, actually getting your stuff delivered, you're failing on identity anywhere, whatever it is, we'll come back free of charge and fix it. So
where do people go? What's the URL?
Oh, honestly, we just have them at sarchdigital.com. Just hit the contact form. Just reference this webcast, and we'll make sure we hook you up with the pricing.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I think this has been really, really informative, and I think it's going to benefit a lot of people in the community. So thanks again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. And if anyone has a question, just let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them for free.
Cool. I'll tag you when we repost it on Facebook, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of comments.
Awesome, man. Sounds good to me. I'll be here to answer them.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys.